I definitely believe that trying to spread yourself too thin and trying to do more is not the way to go. I know the feeling all too well of feeling like, oh, but if I don't do this workout and I'm not training these muscles, I'm really going to be going backwards and I'm not going to be getting better at that. And I tried that approach for a long time, and you just kind of don't really get much better at anything. And I've had the biggest gains in my training in the past couple of years from hyper focusing down on the things that were really going to deliver the results that I want. And the only way to do that is to remove other things from your program. In today's episode, we are talking about program splits and how do you balance wanting to try and fit more into your program versus, doubling down on the things that are going to really give you the results that you want. We recently had a question by one of our members in the UMS online coaching app. I have been doing UMS Pro for some time now, but I never chose the path of either calisthenics or athletic performance. I've been doing the program as if I was working out 6 days a week, but I did both the straight arm scapular strength, or AKA calisthenics day, on Wednesday, and then the athletic strength development, or a glute focus day, on Saturday. I'm lucky if I get to do both of these workouts in a week. However, my goal is to continue to get a balance in both being strong and flexible no matter how long it takes. My question is, continuing this way, am I hindering or slowing down performance? Will this affect the way I do the program in later phases? Welcome to our podcast, proudly brought to you by VPA Australia, our trusted supplement provider since Unity Gym started. As sponsored athletes, we're excited to offer you a special 10% discount on top quality supplements that ship worldwide. Just use our discount code from the description. To avoid international shipping fees, contact VPA and tell them we sent you to get a flat shipping rate. Today's episode is also sponsored by the Flexibility Blueprint. Ever felt lost in the sea of social media fitness advice? The Flexibility Blueprint is your map to progress, designed to help you get laser focused on what matters most for your journey in flexibility and strength. And guess what? It's free. Grab it using the link in the description. If you're starting your flexibility journey, don't miss our 20-minute mobility routine. It's your first step to quick wins in flexibility. For those further along, use our Flexibility Masterclass, featuring advanced techniques like loaded stretching and end range strength for the pancake, front splits, middle splits, and more. Links for both are also in the description. And for the seasoned athletes, avoid the frustration of complex training puzzles with our UMS Tribe membership. It's a different online coaching experience with strength and flexibility combined. Don't forget, we're Amazon affiliates too. You can find all the equipment used in our videos and podcasts at the most competitive prices with our affiliate links in the description. Now let's dive into today's episode. And I've got Phil and Yanni with me on the show to discuss it. How are you guys?
G'day. Going well.
Good, thank you.
Always excited to be doing these sessions.
Yeah, it's good fun, isn't it? It's a good little catch up. I enjoy it too. So I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to give my 2 cents because I feel like Phil is probably going to have a slightly different take on this, which is really good. People get different perspectives. My take on this is that I definitely believe that trying to spread yourself too thin and trying to do more is not the way to go. I know the feeling all too well of feeling like, oh, but if I don't do this workout and I'm not training these muscles, I'm really going to be going backwards and I'm not going to be getting better at that. And I tried that approach for a long time, and you just kind of don't really get much better at anything. And I've had the biggest gains in my training in the past couple of years from hyper focusing down on the things that were really going to deliver the results that I want. And the only way to do that is to remove other things from your program. So for me personally, I never do the athletic strength development day in the UMS because glute training is just not a focus for me. And it would be very beneficial for me. I've got an anterior pelvic tilt, I've got spondylolisthesis. These are all things that would really benefit from doing 1 or 2 hip thrust days a week. But that's not more important to me than calisthenics strength development and upper body strength development. So for me, I definitely don't do it. And that's my quick take on it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Phil, you dive into this quickly, and then I'll give my perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. You start out with the I guess, why you do it. And that's what it really comes down to in the day. Because if you're someone who is going for optimal performance, like Rad is going for with his gymnastics and calisthenics strength, then yeah, certainly eliminating what is not necessarily for that sort of specialization is key. But for some people, with them training 6 days a week, like I've worked with plenty of clients, I know through phase of my life where like you just want to be training every day, you want to be doing something, and like it's more about kind of just the process and being sort of well rounded rather than targeting one like high performance at any one level. So there's different reasons, pros and cons, but certainly if you're trying to get better at one particular element, then the more you can, like the more things you try and do, the more you're spreading yourself thin, and the less chance you'll have to adapt. Because you got to remember, like adaptations do happen when you're resting, and if you're like cramming your week full of other stuff that eliminates chances for rest, then that can be detrimental.
Yeah, look, I like that you sort of mentioned there that there's pros and cons for both, because I've done periods of training where I've really specialized. The one that comes to mind that's the most obvious is when I set myself a target of achieving a 140 kilogram bench press on the flat bench, which in pounds, I'm not sure what that is, about 220 or something like that. I could be way off there. So
it's more like about 300 pounds.
300. Okay. So, and what ended up happening, I achieved the goal, but I also injured my shoulder in the same time because there was just so much volume on that specific area of the body that I didn't probably pay attention to how to offset it and manage it very well. So there is this, when you really niche down and get laser focused on something, you do definitely open the door to a more rapid adaptation, better results in that area. But you also do have to approach it with caution and care, that you're not going to sort of overdo it and end up with an overuse injury in an area of the body that you sort of, I guess, neglect or take for granted. So there's pros and cons for it. I'm sort of more on the Phil camp at the moment here, where most of my training is done for maintenance. And so I like to do a bit of a well-rounded, and I train less as a middle-aged adult. I used to do sort of 5 or 6 days a week of pretty intense resistance and flexibility training. Nowadays, I do 4 days of that: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Wednesday and Saturday has more of a cardio focus for me.
Yeah, just to pull up that, like part of that shows age, but also that's just also your like priorities changing. So it doesn't mean just because you as soon as you get past 40 or whatever, you have to stop doing like volume and intensity. It's just I think more of that probably comes from just changing priorities, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Look, I very much value, as you get older, you start to value longevity a little bit more, I think, and you start to think about what's going to give me the best results over you get to, at least I did, I got to my mid 40s and thought, okay, so I've sort of lived half of the average lifespan now, and I had some fun and I pushed the limits and certainly pushed beyond breaking point many times. Now I want to figure out how to do what I do for the second half of life. And a big part of that is it's very hard to I guess, ignore the need for a healthy dose of cardiovascular training. There's just so many great benefits to it for health and longevity. And so that's where it's sort of etched back into my routine a couple of days a week. I have very, very heavy focus on cardio, and it's usually about 45 minutes of boxing, and then about half an hour to 45 minutes of a run after that, or something like that. So
yeah, but I think like longevity is just, it's what one of my main focuses has been on as I build my online coaching business. And I think there's such a case with longevity. Like people kind of fall into that trap of thinking like, okay, I'm training for longevity now, therefore it means I have to be really conservative and boring everything. But I think like with longevity, the main challenge is figuring out how do we make ourselves excited about training for the rest of our lives. Because if it's not going to be something you're excited about doing, then it's going to be coming down to discipline. And different people have different levels of discipline and motivation. But if you can be excited about it, then it's going to be much easier to maintain over a lifetime. And so I'm sort of thinking about it now for myself in terms of seasons. Like at the moment, I just finished up a 13-minute strength training session, which I did on machine weights, which if you told me a couple of years ago when I was training at uni gym or at base gym doing intense powerlifting where sessions would often go for 90 minutes, that you'd be doing kind of 13-minute machine weight sessions, I would have been, probably appalled. But yeah, as I've changed my mindset over the years, is like, there's just different seasons where at different times, you're going to have different priorities. And the most important thing is that you maintain some level of consistency, and particularly consistency at the high intensities of strength, because muscle maintenance, particularly past 30, is so key. And then ideally sort of having consistency as well with any type of cardio. But the thing that I think is important is like, you can go through seasons where where training is at maintenance, but then I think it's also important to then try and, like, once you feel that sort of excitement and that passion come back for training, then dive into it and explore it. Because if you sort of talk yourself out of doing anything kind of exciting and challenging, and just think you have to be in maintenance mode for longevity, then I think it's much more likely that you just go a bit, just fall out of love with the process and be totally unexcited about it. Like, I can't imagine Rad kind of going into, like, I don't know, maintenance mode forever. Like, you're always in that pursuit of performance.
Yeah, I am. But at the same time, I do really agree with you guys about longevity. My training is all about longevity now. Like, when I go back to, that really changed for me when I had those slap tears. Like, that was just the biggest wake up call for me. And it was the biggest realization that, pushing yourself too hard can cause damage and injury to your body that is going to be with you for the rest of your life. And the injuries that I had when I was in my 20s, although I had to get surgery for one of them for a torn Lisfranc ligament, man, I bounced back from that quickly. And besides maybe 5% less dorsiflexion in my right foot, I really don't know that I've even had an injury. I bounced back from that so quickly. These shoulder injuries in my late 30s, might have even been early 40s for one of them. Actually, I think it was. Very, very different story. And so that's when my mindset really shifted to longevity. But I'm still absolutely pursuing my goals. And if you watch my training sessions, my daily training sessions, I'm still really, really doing workouts that make me feel fulfilled and that are driving me towards, my big rocks of handstand push-ups and one-arm pull-ups. It's just with a different mindset. I have these goals that are here, and I am somewhat detached from the goal and focused far more on the process. And so, for example, when I recognize that I have like even a 1 out of 10 golfer's elbow pain when I start my workouts. So it's not enough to stop me doing anything, but it's enough to make me go, there's still a tiny little bit of something there. For me, with longevity, that dictates where I don't shift my focus into high intensity one-arm training, and I can't do a one-arm pull-up yet, but on the journey towards it, you start doing single arm rows on rings with a lot of pauses and slow eccentrics, and you do assisted one-arm work, and because my mindset with longevity, even though I could go and do that training now, I know that is not going to work out well for me in the future if I can't really get on top of this. So instead, I look at my body and I think, okay, well, what are the possible weak links in my body that are causing this to stay around? And we talked about that in a recent episode. There's the shoulder muscles that are involved in pulling, there's the elbow muscles that are involved in pulling, and the wrist muscles. And, so you go through that kinetic chain and systematically try and turn weak links into strengths. So I'm still doing workouts that excite me. I'm still working towards goals that excite me. But gone are the days for me where 10 years ago, like when I got golfer's elbow the first time back at Unity Gym, I had a mindset of, just suck it up and push through it. And I did push through it until I got to a point where it was so bad that even just like grabbing onto a pull-up bar and going like that was like a 10 out of 10 pain. It was just agony. So I agree with you guys about longevity 100%.
Hey, Rad,
I just
do you spell longevity with an E or an I after the G? Because I've never heard anyone else say longevity. But
maybe
anyway.
maybe I'm saying it wrong. Longevity.
I don't know.
Longevity.
I don't know. Just the way you're saying it.
No. In all honesty, I would probably let autocorrect spell it for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, but
your mic seems quite high, Rad. I'm getting distortion when you're.
Yeah, really.
speaking.
Okay.
Yeah. Just
All
check
right.
it out.
Yeah, I think there's again the thing I want to get clear is I don't think there's I think it's a bit of a false dichotomy to have longevity versus performance. I think performance has to be such an integral part of longevity because you want to basically, for when thinking about how am I going to be fit and functional in old age, it's it really comes down to the rate of decline from your peak. And so the higher you can make your peak and the slower you can make your rate of decline, then the higher function you'll have at the end of life. And so when you think about end of life, it's looking at kind of your VO2 max, so your ability, what's your maximum oxygen output. And generally for a person to be able to the average level for someone who's like at the 90-year-old level, like their VO2 max, their maximal output in fitness is probably about the amount of like a slow walk. But if you can, and some people will be much lower than that, and other people will hit that level, like that, their maximum output will be that in their 50s if they've never done any fitness, they're very overweight, metabolic conditions, all these kind of things. So when thinking about longevity, I'm thinking, okay, how can I like make gains when I can, and then try and slow the decline as much as possible. So I think that comes down to like when you are feeling motivated, when you're feeling excited, really go for it and try and put on the strength, put on the muscle mass, get the fitness, the high end fitness of VO2 max plus your baseline fitness with your zone 2. But then in the periods where you're not feeling as excited, if you're motivation wanes, if you have injuries that you're dealing with, like how can you slow the rate of decline? And that's where my 13-minute strength workouts come in at the moment, where I'm really working on my VO2 max at the moment, and that like intensity there, combined with the lack of time I have due to my business and my baby and all these other things, means that like I'm really trying to just then maintain what I've got, so I don't get that sort of increased rate of decline by losing strength. So I think there's that. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I think you kind of got to go with your passions and your interests over a lifetime, but just always think like my floor just has to be maintenance rather than like nothing, because nothing just leads to rapid decreases. So
yeah, and I think there's at the other end of the spectrum here is the young buck who's coming into a program like ours, which I've seen many times, whether it's a male or a female. They've had some, they've done a lot in their past already. They've got a good training age. They've been training for 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 years consistently, achieved pretty good results, and they're taking on a new program and really struggling to figure out what they're going to fill their calendar with every week. And what ends up resulting is a mishmash of a few different things. They do some gymnastics training on one day. They do a couple of classes there. They're still really hooked on CrossFit. So they're still going to about 3 or 4 CrossFit classes a week. And then they start a UMS program on top of that, or whatever program it is that's very, very specialized in developing strength and flexibility, the foundational skill attributes that you need to deploy into whatever you want to get better at. And they tend to end up getting nowhere. They make an inch in progress in a variety of different directions, multiple directions, but really nothing noteworthy. And that's,
I say celebrate the inch. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but again, like I think there's so much benefit in like maintaining or even like gradually progressing through a bunch of different elements. It's just a matter of how you think about it and what your goals are. Because if you do want to really excel, and this is where you're going, I'm sure, is like, really focus on one thing. But I think if someone's enjoying making an inch in lots of different areas, and like that's also
the problem is, in my experience, they don't. In my experience, they don't enjoy an inch in multiple areas. They're used to making enormous leaps in progress, and they hit a hurdle, a roadblock, whatever you want to call it. They plateau, maybe for the first time ever. Maybe it's just a recent plateau. And then they come to a professional like us and say, I need to get through this limitation, whether it be flexibility related, or whether it be strength related, or structural balance related, where they're getting injuries, or there's a postural issue that stifles their progress. And they don't let go of the things that they're doing to focus on just busting through that and getting what they need. And after 3 months of training, doing a million different things, they've made an inch of progress in a variety of different directions, and they say, this is crap. I haven't achieved what I signed up to achieve. And you say, yeah, well, you're simply doing too much. Like if you want noteworthy results in one area, you probably need to sacrifice something else a little bit for just a moment of time.
And I should caveat my last statement is it's certainly not ideal. And also, if you are like pushing yourself to extreme limits, and you're going to be much more at the likelihood where you're going to injure yourself or just get burnt out and not enjoy it. But my main point there is like, there's if you're maintaining or slightly progressing in lots of different areas while doing it consistently and enjoying it, then
if you're enjoying it, for sure.
Yeah, but if you're getting frustrated, then that's definitely a matter, and you're much more likely to injure yourself if you're really blasting yourself in all different angles.
I want to echo what Yanni said as well, because Yanni, I've seen it so many times as well with and I do love the young gun analogy, because in all honesty, our more mature UMS members that come in, people that are in their 35 and older, they're usually a lot more willing to follow an exact program that you give them, because that's what they've come for. You know, most people that are from 35 or older that have been training for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, they come to something like the UMS online coaching because they haven't been able to bust through training plateaus that they've hit, and they want to get through that. And usually those people are really, really willing to go to get a program and go, wow, and just follow it. So I do like that young gun analogy, because I can absolutely relate to it. I was that guy one time. I was the guy that when I went into a new program, I would look at everything and I wanted to do everything as quick as I could. And that causes you to just be changing from thing to thing to thing to thing. And then you look back after 6 months and you realize you actually haven't made a significant leap forward with anything that you're doing. And that was very, very frustrating for me. And I think that it's really beneficial for people that when you do choose a path with your training, follow it for a bare minimum of 2 mesocycles. In the UMS, that would be 8 weeks. So if you say, I am going to work on doing the athletic strength development path to develop glute strength and all the other benefits that has, or I'm going to go down this calisthenics path and I'm going to be working on straight arm scapular strength, that stick to that path and follow it for 8 weeks minimum. And then at the end of that 8 weeks, assess where you want to go for the next 8 weeks and think, yes, I like the progress that I'm making here, I'm going to keep at it. Or, you know what, I feel like I want to go and do some focus on some glute strength. Because following any structured program, if you're consistent with it and you're frequent with the training, whether it be 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 days a week, any number of those days, if you consistently do that each week and you follow the program that's been written for you, you will see improvement, and you'll see significant improvement. But the idea of like where week to week you make a decision of, oh, this week I think I want to go and do this, it's just not the optimal way to achieve adaptation. And of course, there'll be exceptions. There will be people that achieve adaptation that way, but
and that's what I want to talk about just quickly is like I guess we talked about the young gun personality there, but one of the more common things, and I think we can all relate to, is like people who have previously been the young gun and had a low training age, where when you do anything when you're starting out, and if you're younger than 30 particularly, like when you're in a hormonally beneficial place to make quick adaptations, but also if you just haven't done any training before, like so many of the early gains you get are going to come easily. And then, as you know, with anyone who trains longer, it gets at like point of diminishing returns where these changes, like you have to put so much more effort in, so much recovery in, and then like that slows things down. So I think a really common person we see is like people who have previously been young guns expect sort of that quick improvement because that's what they used to get when they were low training age or just younger in age, and now they're trying to get like recreate those same results, but either older and or at like a more advanced sort of training age where you do need to get more into specialization to see progress. So I think that's another
100%. So look, hopefully you guys learned something from this. I really wish that I had have listened to these lessons when I was younger, and they were being told to me, they were being taught. I was just not listening. And I would have made so much more progress so much quicker in the areas that I want to if I had have just listened to the coaches that knew more than me and who were saying, just follow this program and do this for X amount of months and you'll see a great result.
Kind of summary, like actionable takeaway from that, I think is like exactly what you said. They're out of like spend some time where you're really focused on one thing. And what I love about the program that you do is it's that combination of strength, flexibility and fitness. And so I think, you know, if you can really think, okay, this time I'm going to go like make strength a priority for this block of time. But then the beauty of the program is you've got that floor of fitness and flexibility that you'll be able to maintain what you have and really go for it in strength, and then hold that strength and try and maintain that while you then build up one of the other ones. And if you keep doing that and keep having that really good floor, then that's going to do both of what I talked about before of like increasing your peak and slowing your rate of like inevitable decline post 30 with muscle mass, strength and fitness. Not to be too glib, but yeah, that's what I love about your program is it is so structured for that. But
I'll finish on just echoing sort of that sentiment of making the foundation of everything that you do strength, flexibility, and some fitness, because that will carry over to everything. So if in doubt, and if you feel like things are getting a little bit chaotic in your training schedule, then just peel it back to the basics. keep it simple. You know, strength, flexibility, fitness. Make sure that those three things are covered, and then start to figure out where you can reincorporate your skills training and things like that around that. But if you're wondering what's going to give you the best bang for your buck ever, developing raw strength and functional flexibility, meaning flexibility that you can demonstrate in and out of the gym, in and out of the yoga class, you know, with a heavy barbell on your back, or doing a skin the cat on a set of gymnastics rings in the upper body flexibility. Those sorts of levels of flexibility you're going to be able to deploy into any sort of physical activity, and you'll find that very rewarding.
And just one last quick point is I'm working a lot with, I guess, older population, so probably 60 plus at the moment is an area that I'm super interested in, and strength, flexibility, and fitness. But I'd also add, if you're in that cohort of sort of 60 plus, is really starting to think about balance as well, because at a younger age, balance kind of comes quite naturally. Strength is going to do wonders for your balance, but that's just my last little point to drop in there. If you are sort of 60 plus, is really thinking about specific balance training. So just to weed that one in.
that was kind of like the salt on the end of the meal.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Sorry, Phil?
No,
don't.
go ahead.
Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. I hope you got something out of this. And if you have any questions on this topic, please comment and we will answer them for you. And if you've got any ideas for future podcast episodes as well, anything that you would like to hear us talk about, please comment and we will make a podcast for you. And if you're listening on Spotify and you like this, please share it with a friend. Hit that share button right now. Copy the link and post it into a message. If you think that there's somebody that needs to hear this that would really benefit from it, then get it out there. Help us spread the word. And we'll see you in the next episode.